So my new favorite tool for synchronous learning, especially with little ones, is Jamboard. What's a Jamboard, Susan? That's what you may be asking. Jamboard is a newer tool by Google, but you may not realize it's been around for a couple years. Jamboard is an interactive whiteboard. I see teachers all the time. They'll have something that they're trying to show the kids, and they hold it up to the camera like, "Hey guys, can you see this right here? Is this your life sometimes trying to teach online?" Wouldn't it be nice, instead of having to hold up a whiteboard where we're trying to write and then we wonder, is it backwards? Can you see it okay? Like, that's kind of what it's like teaching online right now. It's all new and different. Jamboard allows me to display a whiteboard and I can write right there. Jamboard works in a Chrome browser. So if your students are on Chromebooks, they can also use the Jamboard. It also works on a mobile device as well. So on my iPhone or my iPad, I can download Jamboard, the app Jamboard, and then I can write right here. I can model. You can see in the example here, I can spell words. I can do it right on my iPad. I can do it right on my iPhone. If I have a touchscreen device, or some people, like I've got a really great ViewSonic touchscreen monitor and I'm able to touch right on the monitor. Amazing ways, but no matter what tool you have, you can interact with it. I've gotten really good actually at writing just with my touchpad on my computer. So I can write there, but wait, there's more. It's not just a digital whiteboard. There's some other interactive parts of this as well. So Jamboard is great because I can display writing, but wait, let's see what else we can do. I can use Jamboard interactively. So if you're familiar with how most things in the Google Suite work, Jamboard in some ways is just a really fancy Google Doc, right? Or maybe it's a really simple Google Doc. It shares and behaves much like Docs do in Drive. So when I create a Jamboard, it lives in Drive. When I use a Jamboard, I can use it in a way where everyone's editing the same one. You know, you've done that where one person shares a doc and everybody's writing in the same place. It can be kind of chaotic. What if we did an activity like this one here? I've posted a question, right? It says, which one doesn't belong? If you're not familiar with wodb.ca, it's a great resource for these conversation starters, like these questions. Which one doesn't belong? And then I have the students go in collaboratively. So I can share this Jamboard in a way that all of my students can edit it. Sounds a little bit kooky, right? But remember, classroom management. So I could drop a link to this in a chat. And then students could grab their little marker and slide it around. Now, if I do this in a way with people who aren't in my domain, it's all anonymous and I don't see what's going on. The best thing is if I'm doing this with students in a Chrome environment and they're logged into their Google account, I just drop it in there and then I actually see their little names, their little icons as they move it around. So I can do this interactively. I'm going to demonstrate this for you in just a minute, but someone just asked, where can you find the Jamboard? Really simple, jamboard.google.com. If you go to your Google Waffle, you know the Google Waffle, oftentimes you'll find it there. And also, if you go into Drive, you may not have realized it. It could be hiding. If you go to your Drive and you go New More, right? Usually if you're in Drive and you go New More, you see like docs and you see slides. But if you go down in there, some of the coolest tools are under that more menu. Now, occasionally we come across school districts who have not yet turned this on, right? Most of the time, that might be the case that they just don't know they need to turn it on. Like, I haven't met many people whose district says, nope, not allowed to use Jamboard. But if you find yourself in a position where it's not working right now, you might need to just knock on whoever's in charge of technology, be like, hey, is there a reason we don't have Jamboard yet? But most of the time, they just haven't flipped the switch. I'm going to demonstrate Jamboard in just a minute. So these are all different examples of how I might use Jamboard. And you see that animation there. Remember, I can put some little cards down on it, just little sticky notes, and kids can sort and order them. Lots of ways I can use Jamboard. I'm going to go over here and go out of full screen though. And I'm going to go into a Jamboard. Now remember, some people asked, where do you find Jamboard? So I could just go to jamboard.google.com, but someone else mentioned, and over here in my Google Waffle, you guys know the Google Waffle, right? That's the app launcher is its real name. I can go to Jamboard, and usually you go there and it might not be right on top, but if you scroll around, you can find Jamboard. Look, there it is, right? Free, awesome, you get to use it. So I'm going to demonstrate this, how I might do this with young learners. Now, I can share this to my class a couple of ways, and one way I can share it to them is that everyone can edit. What? You're going to let them edit? Well, think of it like this. I have my whiteboard and I want to give a pen to every student. I want them to be able to work on this, right? So I share it so that anyone with the link can edit. That's a little bit different. I wouldn't do that with anything, but in this example, I do want everyone working together. So I'm going to say anyone with the link can edit. Google Classroom can help me out with that. And I know some of you right now, you're like, ooh, can I share this in Google Classroom? The answer is yes, I'll get there. So I want to cast a vote. And Lauren, if you don't mind, I'm going to do mine. And if you would vote too, I'm going to go over here to the sticky tab. Over on the side, you see the sticky note. So over the menu for this is on the left-hand side. And I'm going to create my sticky. And I'm going to type my name. And someone just asked a question, and the answer is yes, Natasha. The answer is yes. Can you believe it? Oh my gosh, I'll talk about that in just a second. So I'm going to cast my vote. I put my name on here, and I'm going to even let you know that I definitely have an opinion. In the dog versus cat example, I'm going to vote here. And I'm going to do my 2-finger touch. Do you know that you can put emoji on these things? So I'm going to do my 2-finger touch. On some computers, it's 2-finger touch. Sometimes it's a right click. And I'm going to bring up an emoji menu. And I'm going to make sure I really use visuals. I love using visuals, especially with young ones, because, man, they may not be able to spell words, but they can use emoji. Like even my non-readers know how to speak emoji. So I can give it to kids with a way that they can come on over here and they could put their sticky. Oh my goodness. Someone just asked, how do I make the background for the slide? I insert images. That one on the right is actually my puppy dog, Sheldon. And so I use the image icon. I went over here and I said, add image. I use the Google image search, and I can either pull in pictures from my own computer or pictures from Google Drive or pictures from a Google search, right? I can do Google image search right here, and I get a lot of great images that I'm allowed to use for that. So I could do that live and interactively. I know you guys are asking about how do I give that to them. Let's look at a couple more examples, and then we'll talk about the Google Classroom layer. So in Jamboard, my pages are called frames, right? Up at the top, there's the thing, they're called frames. Now, they're up here. I can have up to 20 frames in a Jamboard, and I can have up to 50 participants. So just keeping that in mind, only 50 people can collaborate live, but most of us probably in our K2, K3 classes only have 27, 28, maybe. I don't know many primary teachers who have that many kids, but so 50 people can collaborate. I can come up here. In slides, I'm used to the over on the side, but usually I would have all the pages on the side, but my frames or my pages are up on the top. And I can pull it down, and see here, I have a blank one. I'm going to go to frame 2, which is just a good old-fashioned blank one. Remember what I was talking about being able to model math, not having to hold it up and say, everyone, can you see this? I can actually model my math right here on the screen. I can do my 9 plus 2, and I'm thinking, okay, this is grade 1, and I'm all about the 10. So I know that 2 is really 1 and 1 because I want to make a 10. I want easy numbers whenever I can. Oop, here I have 9 and 1 is a 10. Woohoo, I have a 10. So now I have 10 and 1. 10 plus 1 makes 11, right? We want to try to make a 10, and 9 and 2 is the same as 10 and 1. I can model that. Now I'm doing it on my touchpad. It's a whole lot easier when you connect from a secondary device like an iPad or a touch screen thing, or like my ViewSonic touch monitor. Really, really cool. So I'm going to come back up to the top though, and I'm going to do another frame. So in the first one you saw I had prepared the background. I put the 2 little things there, and someone asked a question about how do you keep them from deleting them. Truth is, you can't keep them from deleting it, but you can teach them about the undo button. And again, if we're not in there anonymously, I can see who's clicking on what. So I can be like, hey, Lauren, why did you delete my picture, right? So I can make sure I have some classroom management there too. I'm going to go to the next frame because this is one of my favorites. On frame 3, I have a phonics activity. I want to teach a phonics lesson synchronously with my kids. I can share this to them in Google Meet, and then we can come on over. So I'll spell my first word. We're working on egg words, and I have that picture of the pig that I entered right from the image menu. And I have this here. And then I love this little laser pointer because I can say D-E-G. Will you put the whole word together with me? What is it? Dig. Awesome. And then if I'm having some good classroom management, once I've modeled it once, I can ask a friend, like I can say, hey, Lauren, will you build the next word for us? And then my friend might be able to come in and see, I can see Lauren there because Lauren and I are in the same domain. I actually see her little user icon at the top of her thing, and I can see who's doing it. I can see that Lauren is spelling the word for me. She's going to spell, it looks like fig. Ig, fig. How great is this? Nice, interactive, clear. I really do love Jamboard for all of its interactive glory, right? We can be there. It's like we're together. Remember, they don't need more technology. They need us. They need to be together. They want that connection. Where did I get the letter cards? You want to see how I built this? I'm going to add a new page. I'm going to do an at family one now, right? I can do an at family one. I'm going to go back up to my frames here, and you see I have a number of frames going on. I'm going to add a frame just by hitting the plus sign. I see the plus sign. I'm going to add a blank page because I want to build an activity. People want to know, how do I do that, right? So I'm going to come to my image icon, do a quick Google image search, and I'm going to search for a cat. I'm going to add the word clip art into my search because I want something kind of kid-friendly. So I'm going to say cat clip art. And oh, there's a cute little kitty cat. I just did a quick Google search within the tool, and I got it there. Here's my cat. So I get this in there, and I can resize it. I can grab it by the corner and resize it. And then I could give some instructions. So in the original one, you saw I used a sticky, and I said, let's make, oops, I could spell, make cat words. So I make my instructions there. And so now I have a sticky with that. How do I get the letters? Well, I'll come back over there, and I'll just do one letter at a time. I'll change the color. Remember, I use the color as a scaffold, so the kids can kind of put them together, especially with young ones. I can C-A-T. Okay, I'm going to change the color now to green, and maybe I'll do B. I'm just putting one letter at a time. People say, how do you make the font so big? Well, for every letter I add, the bigger the number of characters on it, they shrink them down. So I can't really adjust the size, but because there's a single letter on there, that's how it becomes so big. So here's my flashcards, and I can make a little pile, and I could say, okay, let's spell our at words. That simple. Wouldn't it be great? You can prepare your lessons ahead of time. You can go through and you can either model this, you could use this for a recording, or you could have your kids interact. I'll go to one more before I talk about the Google Classroom later. Now, again, I can sort numbers. Here's an example where I have kids sort numbers. I can do shapes. I could do phonics activities. Look at all these great ideas I can use here. But let's talk about this one. In this example, I have a piece of text, and this is a piece of text from our curriculum. And I go over here, I'm going to use the highlight tool. And I want to model a task, because what I'd like the students to do is label the dialogue, right? I want to have them label what they're doing. So let's see, what's the sentence here that shows when someone's speaking? Oh, this one here, come on, Jen. What did she say? She said, come on, Jen. And if I wanted, I could pass the pen to another student now. Like I could say, hey, would you like to try the next one? Or this is where people say, can they have their own copy? So I modeled one, but now I want everyone to have their own copy. So I can use Google Classroom. If you're not a Google Classroom user yet, if you've always thought this isn't for your kids, I'm going to hopefully change your mind. But the magic of Google Classroom will actually let me take this one. Remember earlier, I told you I had one board and I gave you all a pen to write on my one board. I can actually take my one board. If you think of it kind of like a black line master that you're going to stick in a copy machine, my board can be distributed to every learner in my class. Google Classroom can say, you get a Jamboard, and you get a Jamboard, and you get a Jamboard, right? Everybody can get a Jamboard that way. How cool is that? So between the magic of Jamboard and the magic of Google Classroom. Now, someone asked, how do I get in the Meet? Well, I'm sharing my screen. When I'm in a Google Meet, I can share my screen. I can give them the link in the Google Meet too. I use the chat of the Google Meet. I drop it over there, and that way the kids can click right in the chat. It's really easy to make it accessible for them right there. Very, 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 very cool. Oh my goodness. Here's a few more examples. I'm going to go back into this full screen. You can see some ideas. I would love if you right now in the chat, what's spinning in your mind? How might you use Jamboard with your little learners? Go ahead over there in the chat. What kind of ideas do you have right now? How might you use Jamboard with your little learners? Ooh, someone's asking about music notes. You can also use music notes. There's emoji music notes, and you can make them transparent. So really cool way. I showed how I could make the sticky note pink or blue. I can actually make the sticky note transparent, and then those little music notes would float around. So let's say I put some musical staffs on the background, just laying underneath it, and then I could drag those musical notes around. Oh my gosh, I just thought of a great idea. I think I need a sample of that, right? I could put that there. Oh, awesome. So making a transparent sticky note, and then I could slide it around. I just use emoji. They love to draw. You know what it is? Sometimes they just want to scribble. Morning message. What's the missing number game? I love it. Math mini lesson. Forming sentences. Ooh, we can make a sentence and unscramble sentences. Label a diagram. Sight words. You guys are full of amazing ideas. This is so great. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to use it for another language. Just type in whatever language you need. Geometry, draw a shape, phonics. These ideas are just flying through that chat. You guys are amazing. So Jamboard.